Hey, hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope everyone out there is having a fantastic day and that you are all doing great. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. It is a free and easy way to support the channel. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. I am still personally waiting for that very special, what I like to call a $250,000 Bitcoin. It's getting a little it's been a little ridiculous at this point. The amount of energy and money that we've been seeing moving into this space. It looks like good times are ahead. That's how I'm going to phrase it. However, I still remain with a question mark over my head as to how this can take place every single gosh darn day. A company by the name of Remix Point. I do not think we've heard of this company before. Remix Point has apparently raised $215 million US to fund a significant Bitcoin acquisition, setting a near-term goal of owning 3,000 Bitcoin. How we keep hearing about these companies doing this and I mean from like a finite point. If there are 1 million apples left on the table, and every day we get a company saying, hey, we want to buy 3,000 apples. We want 150,000 apples. How many apples can we get for $1 billion? Every single day, it's a little weird that it's happening at this pace. I originally assumed, and I'll even keep my same little prediction. I assumed 2 years we'd see no Bitcoin left, and that was just based off of the Blackrock Bitcoin ETF accumulating near 1 million Bitcoin in such a short period of time. I was like, okay, well, BlackRock's going to own all of it. And now we're hearing news like this once again. It is very rare now, very rare, to hear that a company is only, the air quotes are there, only purchasing $2, $4, $7 million worth of Bitcoin. It is constantly several $100 million and or $1 billion plus. The board cited long-term conviction in Bitcoin's value and corporate growth potential. Japanese firm Remix Point, it says, raises fresh capital to fund major Bitcoin acquisition. They're an energy and tech firm. I think it's interesting. A lot of the companies who are announcing that they're buying Bitcoin, a lot of times usually have nothing to do with crypto in any way, like the hotel chain, that real estate investor guy, that coffee company. And it's like, okay, well, at least they're doing something with their monies. Japanese energy and tech firm Remix Point has announced a bold, everyone's doing it, it's not that bold anymore, strategic move. The company has raised approximately $215 million US in financing with the sole intention of acquiring Bitcoin. The firm aims to build a 3,000 Bitcoin reserve in the near term, positioning itself among Japan's most aggressive corporate. I mean, that's in the world. That's not even just because they're from Japan doesn't mean that they're like, Japan's most aggressive. No, that's like in the world. We've currently, it's over, I don't know the exact number. It's over 150 companies plus who are in this space, who are buying up tons of, I mean, comparatively to every other company on the world, I assume there's at least 80,000 companies. Like, not just public, but I assume, of course, the number's higher. The point of the matter is, not many of them, as we've gone over before, are talking about putting $200 million into anything. Not into gold as a safe haven, not into real estate to get passive income, not into like farming land. This is specifically for Bitcoin. That's the crazy part about it, because years ago, there were companies who would say, hey, we just raised 30 million. We will be putting 1 or 2 million into Bitcoin. Back then we were like, whoa, this one company has $1 million in Bitcoin. That's insane. But now we get this news and it's like, they're one of the, no, like, as far as like, who the fudge owns 3,000 Bitcoin? Don't pretend like that's a normal thing. If you have half a Bitcoin, like, you are sitting pretty, like you're amongst the top 1% of the actually 1% of 1% of holders on the planet. You know that there are billions with a B. There are billions of people on the planet who do not have $500 to their name. If you have a tenth of a Bitcoin, you are far ahead of the curve. If you have half a Bitcoin, you are one of the, it sounds like a joke, but it's not. You're one of the wealthiest people on the planet. People don't have 500 in their bank account. People don't have 1,000 in their bank account. People don't have, how many people do you know that have $20,000 in their bank account, rip-roaring and ready to go? How many have $50,000? Now imagine an entire Bitcoin. Now imagine 10 Bitcoin. 3,000 Bitcoin is a crazy number. That's why I keep flailing in all these videos where I'm sitting here and I'm like, that one company has 100,000 Bitcoin. That's not normal. That company has 600,000 Bitcoin. That's a lot of BTC. Oh, that company, they have 700,000. It's not like, these numbers are crazy. But when you hear them, it doesn't sound like a lot because the mind hears 3,000. And I'm telling you that this is how it works. And the mind thinks $3,000 because the average human mind cannot calculate 3,000 Bitcoin, $114,000. Like, you can't multiply it. So your mind just goes, okay, it's 3,000. You're not realizing like the future ramifications of a single company owning 3,000 Bitcoin. In a statement on Twitter, Remix Point explained the decision followed extensive internal deliberation with the board of directors, reaching a unanimous conclusion that the investment aligns with long-term corporate value creation. I am, as I've stated in other videos, I am quite curious to see how rich these companies actually end up becoming. Simply because we have heard through the money grapevine that at some point Bitcoin is going to $1 million. If Bitcoin, and I air quote here, just does a 10x, they have 2 point something billion dollars worth of Bitcoin. What if Bitcoin does go to 7, 8, 10, 15 million dollars per coin? Like the payoff is staggering. It's completely insane. So yeah, Remix Point. What is that? What does that even mean? What kind of tech are they making? CDs? Are they making, I almost said, oh gosh, never mind. I almost said some old musician from like 2007. Like, are they making his CDs? Like, what do you, Remix Point? That's an interesting name. Okay. They're buying 3,000 Bitcoin. Not a lot of Bitcoin left. And yeah, let's move on. So I'm going to try and be nice, but also like, okay. So I think we were supposed to care about this news. It was one of the most popular unpopular news stories out there. This kind of feels like someone announcing that the internet exists and they're like, unplug it. We don't need no internet, like that kind of thing. Or it feels like old man standing on street corner with sign around his neck, ringing a bell, like the end is coming, like that kind of thing. This was everywhere news because I think that we were supposed to think that this was more significant than it could actually be. New Zealand is in the news. Yes, New Zealand has apparently completely banned cryptocurrency ATMs and has capped international cash transfers. Moves officials say are part of a broader effort to disrupt money laundering and organized, as they say, crimes of a financial sort. New Zealand banning cryptocurrency ATMs is not going to halt the market. I don't know who needed to hear that. 2, the amount of people actually using cryptocurrency ATMs is like 4% of what it used to be. Back in the olden days of 2015, 16, 17, for those of you who weren't here, banks were freezing people's bank accounts of anyone who was using crypto. It was a really weird time, like really. Let's say you had $50 on Coinbase, just on Coinbase. I want that money back on my bank account. And you put that money back to your bank account. It would show on your bank statement that a transfer came from Coinbase. Banks around the world were freezing and stopping people's accounts, saying, we don't want any, Coinbase is illegal, crypto is illegal. Where are you getting this money from? So back then, a lot of people were using that website called Local Bitcoins, where you would shadily meet people in dark alleys and give them actual physical money. And then a lot of the ATMs were popping up. So you would see people, you would walk by them. People were putting in a couple $100. But since then, we have tons of crypto exchanges. You can get crypto on Robinhood. You can get it on Binance. You can get it on Coinbase. You can get it on Kraken. The list literally goes on, even more so when you're in a different country. So people don't really use crypto ATMs, and many of them also had caps already. You could not walk up to them with $1 million and then slowly individually put all the bills inside of the machines. Many of them had like daily caps for certain addresses of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Not many people are going to be walking around the streets with a book bag or a purse or whatever filled with $100,000. They put in $2,000 into one address and they go, okay, here's the next one. You would look crazy. People would start looking at you because you've been standing there for an hour and a half introducing bills into this machine. So this news made the rounds as like, oh no, are crypto ATMs in trouble? They've been in trouble for years. A lot of these things are disappearing because no one needs them anymore. They were great back in the day, but they're not really a thing. As far as like capping like a cash transfers, what was also happening, which many people probably don't know about, a lot of countries are changing their tax laws or are just not as attractive to wealthy people anymore, for whatever the reason might be across the board. It's not just one thing. Many countries are doing things. And what's happening is that people are beginning to move their money slowly or quickly out of these countries, out of a simple, we want to move somewhere else. We want to move to Dubai. We want to move to a more friendly tax haven, or whatever the case might be. And what's happening is that a lot of countries are starting to like, remember like the cap used to be like 10,000 per day. The real problem is that A, you shouldn't be told what you can and can't do with your money. That's the main problem. Second, a lot of people for years have been, okay, cool, I'm going to follow the rules. And they send 9,999. But that also, for those of you who don't know, that sets off a red flag in many countries because they think you're even more so making sure that you fall below the number to do something even more illegal. A lot of countries lowered that number to 5,000 in the last couple of years. And then other countries are lowering it now to 1,000. So if you remember a while ago, we had discussions about like China, and I mean, first of all, it's everywhere. But China, they were in the news because they were really like making sure that you couldn't move any money out of the country. Because, how do I say this nicely? A lot of countries on the planet, people are having issues residing in that place. So they're choosing to move themselves and their money elsewhere. That I said it nicely. And as such, countries are beginning to panic because they're realizing that like the people who were, and I say it this way, only paying 15 or 20% in taxes because they made such a huge amount of money, these people are leaving and they're like kind of missing the whales from this entire equation. So a lot of countries think that it's the appropriate thing to do to just put more restrictions on money and stuff like that. And it's also a reason why crypto is becoming more popular because, In a Wednesday announcement, Associate Justice Minister Nicole McKee unveiled the measures as part of the government's overhaul of its anti-money laundering and countering, I probably can't say that word around the world. The reform package includes banning 8 crypto ATMs entirely and introducing a $5,000 limit on international cash transfers. Why? Like, what's the actual reason for it other than like an excess amount of control? I was going to say the words, I could maybe understand 50,000. No, it's not your money. You didn't make that money. I made the money. You're already taxing the money. I'm trusting a bank to hold my money. They're charging me a fee every month to hold my money. When I buy something that's already taxed, the money that I made is also it's so many walls and so many directions. Of course, people are moving to other places or simply as we've seen in a number of other countries, like in China, as we've been going over, people are buying like really big pieces of art or diamonds, and they're simply like getting on a plane and taking it somewhere. Of course, this is happening. Why a 5? What logic could that possibly hold? How is 5,000 safer than 10,000? Think about it. If the cap is 10,000, there's a saying, I'm paraphrasing, it's something along the lines of, if people want to do evil, they're going to do evil. I'm paraphrasing, but this is if people want to do something, they're going to do it. If people are trying to do something, moving 10,000 per day, well, guess what? They only have to double their time. They're going to start doing it with 5,000. What exactly is the average person, like, how is that going to help them in any sort of way? The 1% of people who are moving that kind of money, they're going to find other, it just doesn't make any sense. This world is so, officials say both measures are designed to block avenues used by criminals to move illicit funds. You know, this isn't 1992, right? You know, the only way to move around money isn't like literally just in cash or by writing like a fake check. This isn't some 1988, heist kind of, no, like, that I don't understand the world. I don't get it. They said we will also make it difficult for criminals to convert cash. We will also make it difficult to convert cash to high risk assets such as cryptocurrencies by banning crypto ATMs. Well, I hope that country eventually finds out about the internet. I don't know if they know it yet. They're going to be flabbergasted when they get smartphones. That's going to be a hoot and a daisy for them. Like, there's so many countries doing stuff like this. Years ago, I think it was 2018, when India got rid of their largest like paper bill. First of all, that only punished poor people. The point of them getting rid of their larger like bills in India, they said, was to stop money laundering. The only people who were using that money in the first place were people like merchants selling stuff outside, selling food. No one's making the big bucks and being like, yeah, I'm going to not pay taxes. These people are making $4 a day. The people with money who have the bank accounts who were getting into crypto, they were simply swapping it on chain. They were moving it like it. What world are we living in? I always feel like politicians are like 30 years behind, and many of them want the world to be that way. But it's like, what are you talking about? Anyway, this was very popular, unpopular news, whatever you want to call it. It was all over the place. I think we were supposed to care about this. I say this nicely. One day I would love to visit New Zealand. I've only heard nice things. However, this ain't it. Like, you're like, this isn't going to really do or stop anything. You're just making sure that normal people who might come into money, who might want to send some money to their family, have to wait a little bit longer. Well, that's the New Zealand news. Alrighty then, zippity doo dah. And yeah, let's move on. Also in what? So if you missed it before, a lot of asset managers and very wealthy people and Blackrock announced 2 years ago that people should basically be moving as much of their money as possible into crypto. The most famous one was Larry Fink. Don't forget this. Larry Fink announcing in 2023 that a good allocation into crypto was around 50, 60, 70% of someone's portfolio when Bitcoin was at $16,000. And I was like, who would say that out loud? Oh, Bitcoin's going up in price. So, of course, those people made a lot of money. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says renowned financial advisor, his name is Rick Edelman, has recommended that clients allocate up to 40% of their portfolio into crypto. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Yes, my friends, we continue on this very weird train where these people keep announcing this over and over. And for those of you who don't know, rich people followed their advice. People will literally go, we have thousands of assets. These haven't been performing as well. I think we're going to swap out of gold. Should we sell 10 homes? Sure. All of that money we're going to put into crypto. This is where you keep seeing all this, like when we get news about these like major purchases within the market from this company and that company, they're not doing this randomly. They know not all rich people know each other, but you know, they talk about these things together. If you hear that BlackRock has this much Bitcoin, other companies fall in line and go, we need to do the exact same thing. If you hear that this family office, 8 of their biggest clients have allocated 20, 30% of their wealth into crypto, that news leaks out amongst rich people. Do you know the other day I was chatting with this person and he told me blah, 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 blah. He did? All right, I'm going to call up this person. They start moving around assets, and this is where the companies are buying this much because family offices are buying this much. Whenever I tell you that we keep getting news that there's a, what's the word? Whenever we keep getting news, the ETFs bought, the ETFs bought, the ETFs bought, I'm like, that's cool. But other people are also buying. It's not just ETFs, it's also companies. And then you get family wealth offices who are also telling their clients, hey, it's time to move some of this money around. You should maybe put around 600 million into Bitcoin. All right, cool, just do it. Cool, like do it right now. Then you have on the same exact ladder, there are people who per year who are making, 8, 7, 9, 15 million per year. They're throwing $1 million into Bitcoin. That also takes a huge chunk of it away. Then you have on the same exact ladder, you have people, cool, I made 5,000 this month. I'm going to put 500 into Bitcoin. It's a full cycle. He said the traditional 60 to 40 stock to bond allocation model is done for. He added that owning crypto is no longer a speculative position, but failing to do so is. We heard that from Fidelity. We heard that from Michael Saylor. We heard that from Larry Fink. We heard, who was the other person? They've all announced if you don't have crypto in your portfolio, you're basically insane. We've heard that at least over the last year, but it's really ramping up at this point. The founder of the $300 billion investment advisory firm, Edelman Financial Engines, made the drastic recommendation suggesting that aggressive investors should hold up to 40% of their money in crypto. Do you understand what that means? The typical allocation for a volatile asset class is typically 1 to 5%, and 5 is pushing it. You normally, if you have huge amounts of wealth, you are typically told 1 to 2 to 3% in different asset classes. Hold 3% in this company, 3% in that, 3% in gold, 3% in, it keeps, really, when you're talking about massive amounts of money, to sit there and go, the baseline of what you should have starts at 10% and goes up to 40 is crazy. Like, it's actually insane to see that we're living through this timeline, that we're seeing this like massive. I really wonder where the market is going to be next year. Like, sincerely, I can't imagine. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I mean this. If we start having like a crazy pumping, going insane market this cycle, I don't see how prices would fall. We've been getting people throwing their money into the cryptocurrency Bitcoin market as prices were going sideways for 6 months. What happens when prices pump and everyone jumps into the market? I can't imagine if we have 150 plus companies now. What if that changes to 400, 500 companies by December next January? I'm throwing out random times and dates, what have you. I can't foresee a situation where retail begins to sell and those coins aren't purchased by those 500 companies who are adamant that they are not going to let go, because if you sell, Blackrock is buying. If you get rid of your coins, Fidelity is across the street waiting to pick it up. I want to see where we're going to see where the market's going to be next year. It makes so much sense, this idea of, cycles being over and all that other kind of stuff. These people have accumulated so heavily in silence and also not silence, like on the screen. But I really wonder what the heck is going on and like what's going to happen from this market. I think we're going to see some crazy stuff in the very near future. Okie dokie, everyone. I think that's going to do it for this video. I sincerely hope that you're all doing well. I hope that you've all enjoyed. I want to thank every single one of you for leaving a like, for leaving a comment, for supporting the channel. Almost a decade in your own way. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and surprising, yes, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.